Higher awareness. He packed way too much, and maybe that was the message. I want to tell you a story about my son because I think there is a much bigger lesson in it, and I asked him for his permission. And actually, this isn't only about men. I'm talking about what I call masculine energy, whether it appears in a man or a woman. That part of us that wants to achieve, to climb the mountain, to prove ourselves, to reach the summit and have everybody say, wow, look what I accomplished. And there's nothing wrong with ambition, but sometimes we don't realize how much of our ambition is actually driven by the need for validation. My son went on a hiking trip. He had planned to climb a very high mountain completely by himself. He had possibly told some people about it. I don't know. He had a goal. He was going to reach that summit. And when I saw his backpack before he left, I thought, whoa, that's a whole lot of stuff. But I didn't actually say anything. It was planned to go on a 1-week hiking trip. I let him go and have his own experience. Of course, I blessed him and made prayers for him. And then after only 2 days, I got a message from him. Mommy, I'm back. So later we met for a drink, and naturally I asked him, what happened? And the sentence that really stayed with me was, Mommy, I packed way too much. And I immediately thought, what if this is more than just a backpack? Because sometimes life gives us these incredibly simple metaphors. We think we're going to climb a mountain. We think we're supposed to prove something. And we're carrying this enormous backpack without even questioning what's inside it. Even that can stem from performance pressure. And I'm not talking about hiking equipment anymore. Nuh-uh. I'm talking about emotional baggage, the expectations we inherited, the fears of our parents, the patterns of our ancestors, the need to prove ourselves, the belief that we have to be strong all the time. And because I had a feeling as a man, my son could interpret him coming home earlier as, I couldn't do it. I failed. So I asked him if it's okay to guide him through this, because I saw something completely different. I saw a possibility. I told him, what if this wasn't failure, darling? What if you were simply being shown something you weren't ready to see before? What if the backpack is the metaphor? What if you were carrying things that were never actually yours to carry? And this is where my own faith comes into the story. I believe God can redirect us in ways we don't immediately understand. Sometimes the redirection doesn't look like a blessing. Sometimes it looks like, I couldn't do it. I failed. I had to turn back. But maybe you're not being punished. Maybe you're being protected. Maybe you're being shown you don't have to carry all of this anymore. Hallelujah. And I told my son, darling, maybe this experience is showing you that some of the baggage you've been carrying from your family, from expectations, from the past was never yours in the first place. And maybe you don't have to carry it to the summit. You can put it down. And here's the part I really want people to hear. When you start putting down old emotional baggage, you might not immediately feel amazing. You might feel tired. You might feel exhausted. You might suddenly need more sleep. You might feel like doing absolutely nothing. And instead of judging yourself and saying, what's wrong with me? Maybe you can say, my body needs a pause. Rest, sleep, be quiet, let yourself recover, allow yourself to heal. Because sometimes we are so used to pushing ourselves that even resting feels like a failure. And then when you've actually processed what you've been carrying, you may notice something else. You may suddenly feel lighter. You may have an outburst of energy, or just more energy, more clarity, more desire to move. Not because you forced yourself up the mountain, but because you stopped carrying what wasn't yours. And this is where I think we need to rethink the whole idea of strength. Maybe strength isn't always climbing higher. Maybe strength is knowing when to stop. Maybe strength is admitting this is too much for me. Maybe strength is turning around. Maybe strength is putting the backpack down. And maybe the biggest achievement isn't reaching the summit that everybody is applauding. Maybe the real achievement is discovering, I don't need their applause anymore. Hallelujah! I don't need to prove that I'm strong. Hallelujah! I don't need to prove that I can do everything alone. I don't need to carry my family's history on my back. I don't need to climb somebody else's mountain. I can choose my own path. And perhaps that's what happened to my son. Maybe he didn't fail to climb the mountain. Maybe he succeeded in discovering that he was carrying way too much. And that is a completely different story. So if you've recently had something happen that feels like a failure, something didn't work, you had to turn around, your plan fell apart, you didn't reach the goal you announced to everybody, before you call yourself a failure, I want you to ask yourself one question. What was I carrying that I was never meant to carry? Because maybe the mountain was not the lesson. The backpack was. My name is Tara. I hope you enjoyed my content.